petrol, diesel, gas, and flour, to name a few. I do not rule out gradual reductions of some of these subsidies further down the road, which would lead to higher inflation persisting into 2020.
Hi everyone, and welcome to our presentation video. Today, we're going to talk about a very important topic that affects all of us: inflation in Malaysia. Have you noticed that price of food, fuels, and everyday items keep rising? Ever wonder why? In this video, we explore the main causes of inflation in Malaysia, recent driver of inflation trends, effectiveness of B&M, household impact, and coping strategies. We also look at how this issue impact Malaysian household and what the data tell us. So, let's get started and understand what really driving the cost of living in Malaysia. To begin with, Malaysia has been facing growing inflationary pressure. These pressures are driven by both global and domestic factors. Some key contributors include rising food and energy price, distribution in the supply chain, and fluctuation in currency value. These factors have significantly raised the cost of living, especially for lower and middle income households. At the same time, the Malaysian government has started reforming blanket subsidies in order to ensure better fiscal sustainability. However, this reform has also affected consumer price. Bank Negara Malaysia, or we call it as a BNM, play a crucial role in managing inflation. As the central bank, it used various monetary policy tools such as the overnight policy rate or OPR and statutory reverse requirement to control inflation. Although inflation in Malaysia is considered moderate when compared to global standard, the combination of rising price and change in subsidies has created challenge for household spending and overall economic stability. It's also important to highlight that while inflation may seem moderate on a national or regional scale, the real impact is strongly felt at the household level. This is especially true for the B40 and M40 income groups, who face greater difficulty in coping with the rising cost of living. So, why does this topic matter? The answer is clear. Malaysia is currently experiencing inflation due to both global and domestic factors. Understanding these causes help us better prepare for and manage the impacts. Now, let's look at one of the major causes of inflation in Malaysia: global factors. Inflation in Malaysia is significantly affected by global economic variables that the country cannot fully control. These include rising price for food, transportation, and local foods, which are closely tied to global commodity price, especially crude oil, wheat, and palm oil. In recent years, global supply chain disruption due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Russia-Ukraine war, and port congestion have made import goods more expensive. This delay and shortage have caused the price of import items to go up, contributing to what we call import inflation. Another key issue is the depreciation of the Malaysian ringgit. When our currency weakens against stronger foreign currencies, it becomes more expensive for Malaysia to import goods. And this again increase price for consumers. On top of that, geopolitical tension and international trade restriction continue to drive up global energy and food price. This situation leads to higher living costs here at home, especially for basic needs like food, fuel, and household items.
For the domestic factor, they have a three factor. First is the rising production cost. When production costs increase, especially food prices, electricity tariff, and raw material, businesses are forced to raise their price of goods and services. This is one of the major drivers of inflation in Malaysia. For example, is the increase in raw material costs and imported goods. Second is the high consumer demand. It happens when consumer demand access the available supply, especially during festival season or post-pandemic recovery. Because of the action, businesses take the opportunity to increase prices. This creates a demand-full inflation in the market. For example, is during festival season like Hari Raya, the demand for essential goods such as chicken, beef, and festival product rise sharply, causing price to surge. Lastly, the government policy, the reduction of or removal of subsidy, especially on food, along with the implementation of taxes such as SST, directly increase the cost of living. When operation costs increase due to this policy, it results in inflation. For example, is cooking oil subsidy removal for 2, 3, and 5 kg bottle in 2022 led to a sharp increase in cooking oil prices.
Food has remained the biggest contributor to inflation in Malaysia, affecting almost every household, regardless of income level. There are several key reasons behind this. First, supply chain distribution between 2020 and 2023, caused by the pandemic and the global conflict, make it harder to import essential items like wheat, dairy, and corn. This led to shortage and the price hike. Next, in mid-2022, the government removed subsidy for bottled cooking oil, which caused price to rise sharply, especially for B40 group who rely on subsidy goods the most. Another factor is rising input costs. Farmers are paying more for fuel, fertilizer, and animal feed, which push up the final price of food product. At the same time, the weaker ringgit has made import food more expensive, adding to inflation through higher import costs. Finally, during festive season like Hari Raya, the demand for beef and other staples increase, which drive price up even further. According to DOSM, food price rose by 5.9% year-on-year in July 2023, with the biggest increase seen dairy, vegetable, and grains. Energy inflation is another major contributor to rising consumer price in Malaysia. One of the main reasons is global oil price volatility. Crude oil price has gone up due to geopolitical tension and supply cuts by the OPEC. This directly affects Malaysia fuel price, especially when government subsidies are reduced. Speaking of subsidies, the government has started to rationalize fuel subsidies, shifting from blanket assistance to more targeted aid. As a result, diesel price has increased, rising transport and business costs. Another factor is the rise in electricity tariff. Higher production costs of Tenaga Nasional Berhad or TNB have led to higher electricity rates, especially for business. These added costs are then passed on the consumer through higher price for goods and services. All of this combined has led to cost push inflation across many sectors, from transportation and manufacturing to food and retail.
So we move on to effectiveness of BNM, the key drivers behind inflation. Firstly, we have food prices, volatile due to supply chain disruptions, El Nino weather patterns. El Nino is climate pattern. So notable rise in rice, chicken and vegetable prices, global food commodity price fluctuation influencing local prices. Next, we move on to energy and fuel, global oil price volatility affecting domestic palm prices. Gradual removal of fuel subsidies leading to price adjustments. Lastly, we have weak ringgit, which is currency depreciation, increase the cost import goods. For example, like food ingredients and machinery, adds inflationary pressures, especially on essential imports. Looking to the table, we have three objectives and action taken and effectiveness. Firstly, we have a cap inflation. So the action taken is maintain OPR at 3% to anchor inflation expectations. The effectiveness is moderately effective. Inflation contained within target but vulnerable to supply side shocks. Next, we have a support economy, reduce SRR by 100 BPS in May 2025 to inject liquidity. Effective in sustaining economic growth momentum for 4.4% GDP growth Q1 2025. Lastly, we have managed exchange rate. The action taken is FX invitation and communication. The effectiveness is partial success. Ringgit remains weak but stable. So overall, BNM shows measured, cautious policy, balancing inflation control with growth support. Structural supply side issues, for example, like food production, energy subsidies, limit monetary policies, full effectiveness.
Let me explain the household's impact of the inflation. First is the household's reduced purchasing power. It is because the value of money decreasing during inflation, meaning that the same amount of income can no longer afford the same quantity of goods and services as before, and the household struggle to cover both essential and non-essential items, causing financial strain and limited their choices. Second is the financial stress and mental pressure. It happened because of the constant increase in living costs lead to the financial stress within households. Family may struggle to pay bills, repay debts, or save for emergency. This financial pressure can affect mental health, leading to anxiety, frustrated, and emotional exhausted, especially for lower income group. Lastly, is in this graph chart that showed that the disposable income is highly concentrated among the lower income group. It's below than 5,000 ringgit, which still make up 48.8% of households. Meanwhile, the T20 income group continued to grow from 70.7% in 2019 to 19.7% in 2022. This highlight widening income inequality and the greater inflation burden on lower income households. I will explain about coping strategy that households can use. It's a strict budget and expense management, which means the households must begin to monitor their income and expenses more closely, creating detailed budget to control spending. Also, prioritize essentials like food, utilities, and transportation, while cutting down on unnecessary expenses to survive within their limited income. Second strategy is postponing major expenses. It means delay big financial decisions such as buying cars, renovating home, or making large purchasing anti-inflation stabilize or their financial situation improve. This help prevent further financial strain during uncertain economic condition. Last strategy that can be used is relying on government support and financial aid. Households can depend on government assistance programs such as Sumbangan Tunai Rahmah (STR), full subsidy, and other welfare aids provided to help vulnerable groups manage their impact of inflation.
So we move on to the recommendation. The first one, improve targeted subsidies. Malaysia should continue giving help to the people who really need it instead of giving the same support to everyone. For example, instead of full subsidies for all, the government can give cash aid to low-income families only. This way, the government saves money and still supports those who are most affected by using prices. Using systems like PADU helps make sure the right people get the help. The next one, help wages keep up with prices. Many Malaysians, especially in the B40 and M40 groups, are finding it hard to keep up with the rising cost of living because their salaries are not increasing enough. The government should help create better jobs and offer training programs so that people can earn more. This will help families live more comfortably and rely less on government aid. The third one, use both bank and government actions together. Controlling inflation needs teamwork. The central bank, BNM, use tools like interest rates while the government handles subsidies and spending. These actions should support each other so prices stay stable and the economy stays strong. If both sides work together, we can control inflation without slowing down growth too much. So the last one is teach people how to manage money. As things get more expensive, it's important that people know how to manage their money. Programs that teach saving, budgeting, and smart spending can help families avoid debt and prepare for tough times. When people understand how to use money wisely, they can handle inflation better. So the conclusion is inflation is a serious issue in Malaysia because it increases of prices of basic things like food, fuel and daily goods. This makes life harder for many families, especially those in the lower and middle income groups. When prices go up but wages stay the same, it becomes difficult for people to afford their needs and manage their monthly expenses. That is why it's important for the government and Bank Negara, Malaysia, to take strong and smart steps to reduce the effects of inflation. One important step is to continue giving financial help to the people who need it the most. Instead of giving the same support to everyone, targeted subsidies should be improved using systems like PADU, so only the low-income groups receive aid. At the same time, wages must be increased in line with rising prices. When people earn enough money, they can live better and depend less on government support. Creating better job opportunities and training programs can help people get higher paying jobs. Lastly, it's very important to teach people how to manage their money better. When families learn how to save, budget and spend wisely, they are more prepared to face rising costs. Financial education programs can help people avoid debt and plan better for the future. In conclusion, fighting inflation takes a team effort. With strong government action, fair economic policies and better public knowledge, Malaysia can reduce the impact of inflation and build a more stable and fair future for all Malaysians. That's all from us. Thank you.